Hello, everybody. Oh, it's good to see you, and it's good to actually fire off something I've been meaning to do for the better part of a month now. Which is telling you guys how to make your own closed captions for your streams in OBS Studio, as well as a somewhat customizable chat widget that you can use without having to rely on browser sources, without having to rely on anything other than your own computer. And this is a big deal for one reason. For the closed caption is one of the most popular closed caption options that's out there right now, which is a website called WebCaptioner, is going down, or sunsetting rather, in October 31st, I think it said. And, well, I'm not sure exactly what sunsetting means, but I'm going to presume that that means that it's not going to be available after October 31st. So I want to give people an option that doesn't rely on capturing from other sources, it doesn't rely on websites, it doesn't rely on anything but you and your own computer, which is a big deal. Same goes for the chat widget, because unfortunately a lot of chat widgets that are out there are done through browser sources and are done relying on uptime with other computers, other websites, other tools, things like that. Your stream and how it works is basically in the hands of other people. And while that sometimes means that technically you don't have to do much in order to make it work, that also means that when it goes down, you can't really stream the same way you used to. So that's a big deal. So what I want to do for you today is show you how you can basically be completely self-sufficient with both closed captions and your chat widget. And they're both fun, and how I'm going to present them today is going to be aimed for how I do them for my stream. However you choose to do it is entirely up to you. And I hope that through this tutorial you'll learn how to change it in such a way that it works for you. So let's get right to it. So with the first thing here today, which is the closed captioning part of things, and it doesn't really have a very convenient name per se. So basically what the tool is called that we'll be talking about today is called closed captioning via Google Speech Recognition. What that means is it basically takes a tool readily available through API, which means that we're not going through a browser, we're not going through a source of any other website, we're going through Google, their tool, through what's called an API to basically turn text to speech. And we're using a plugin that we'll be installing into OBS Studio, and that'll take care of everything. So you won't need to have other browsers open, you won't need to learn anything or link anything in any other website, or learn any other type of code or CSS or anything like that. All you need to do is follow these simple steps. So let's go to the first one here. And we're checking out, this is the page here, and I'll have the link in the description on how to get everything today. But the first thing we're going to be dealing with is this guy here, which is available on the OBS forum, which is obsproject.com, and it hosts a wide variety of tools. But this one in particular, again, is called Closed Captioning via Google Speech Recognition 0.0.8. This, to my knowledge, works with the latest versions of OBS Studio, but the minimum requirement is 28.0.0, which is, I believe, one of the last revisions to date, but I'm not entirely certain of that. Works with all versions. So it is entirely dependent only on OBS working. Does not need anything from your operating system. So it works in Windows, Mac OS X, and Linux just fine. It says here, I mean, it's a blah, 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 some basic stuff. Basically, all it's really trying to tell you is that it's pulling from, again, from an API and works as a standalone OBS plugin. So you don't need anything else. It outputs to a text file on your OBS stream and is completely independent of any other anything. So a lot of people who have computers that aren't so, let's say, mid to high tier or something like that, and don't want to run a bunch of browser sources in order to get closed captions to work, then this would be awesome. This is an awesome option for you. It works with a lot of low to mid tier systems, and I think it would work out well. So basically, I mean, you could read through this if you'd like. It gives you some details in regards to, pardon me, what its features are, what its notes are, and then some known issues which center itself primarily around foreign languages. Looks like he says does not appear to work with the AMD hardware encoder in OBS on Windows. Let's see here, and then it uses the built-in caption support of Twitch's video player, so viewers only get limited amount of positioning options the player provides. We're not going to worry too much about these things because most of the people who are going to be using this are going to be English speakers, generally speaking. But I mean, it deals with all languages that Google is capable of outputting, so that's a lot of languages. So basically what you'll do is you'll click this little link here that says go to download. You'll click that. It'll take you to this page, and you're going to click on this link here, if you're on Windows, of course. And this install here is going to presume that you're working with a Windows system. So if you're not, the tutorial may differ slightly, but not very much, because archives are pretty much zips across the board now, whether you're using Linux, Mac OS X, or Windows. But you do have other options should you want to go with the source code for Linux, for example. But everything is mostly the same because OBS Studio is more or less the same program regardless of which platform you use it on. So anyway, you go ahead and click this link, and when you open up the archive, which one is it? This one here. So this is the file folder you'll see. We're gonna open that right up. You'll see a folder for OBS plugins. You're gonna go ahead and open that up, and 64-bit, and then you'll get this little DLL file. Now, if you've never dealt with OBS plugins ever, this might be a little bit of a noodle scratcher, but I've got you covered. What you'll want to do is go into your main drive, in my case, my C drive. You're going to look for the OBS program folder. So you're going to open up program files. In my case, might be a different location depending on your system and depending on if you chose a custom location for it. You're going to find OBS Studio, and then you're going to open up OBS plugins. And all you really need to do after going into 64-bit, you see a bunch of other little DLLs like it. Those are other OBS plugins. You're just going to legitimately drag and drop. Now, given I already have it here, so I don't need another version of it in there. So we're going to go ahead and just presume everything works the way that it should. It copies and pastes absolutely fine. And then, of course, you're going to be doing this with OBS Studio closed, hopefully. Otherwise, after you do this, you're just going to need to close OBS Studio and reopen it. And then we get to do some of the fun stuff. Now, again, we're going to work with the resources that I used for my closed caption stuff on my stream. But we're going to move over to our OBS screen here. And you'll see I have a lot of docs. It's very cramped here, but this is what I like to do for mine. And basically, say hi to BV here. What you're going to want to do, and again, this is entirely up to you, but this is what I do myself. Once it's installed, you'll see it up, I believe it's this one, and then this one here will be evidence that the plugin has been installed properly. and then you're going to go over to docs. You're going to make sure that captions is checked off, and one of your docs will be this guy here. I have it located here. You're going to see CC disabled, and then a little gear icon right here beside it. Again, to make sure that it works, you hit the gear icon. This guy comes up. Oh, VV's blocking. Oops. But this little window here is going to come up, and it's going to give you basically all of your settings for the caption. Now, the main one that we're going to really focus on here is two things. So the caption source, and what that is the microphone that it's going to be listening to. So let's say, for example, if you're like me and you have a standalone mic, one that's not built into the computer, and I very, very highly recommend that if you're streaming regularly. But if you have a standalone mic, you would see it in the list here, or you would see mic, in this case, like I do, or mic aux. That indicates your primary mic that you've set in the OBS Studio settings, or in your sources list, like I have listed down here, but I'll show you in a sec. So you pick the one that, you go down here, and you select that, and then caption when is really not that important, but you can have it. Basically, caption source is heard on stream, which means that it only captures what you're saying in the closed captions when you're actively streaming or recording, or mute source is heard on stream, so basically it'll do the closed captions even when the mic is muted or you're not on stream. You have the active language. Again, you can select from a variety of languages. The best way this works is not as a translation bit, but rather as if your active language is not English, select it from that list and it will close caption it. That's to my knowledge. I don't know, because I'm primarily an English speaker. This is just what I've heard through the grapevine. You have your profanity filter, which, as it says, is unreliable. I don't bother with it because I don't swear enough for that to really be a problem on Twitch. And then we output to streams only, local recordings only, streams and local recordings. In this case, we're going to go streams and local recordings. We'll change this in a little bit. We don't have to worry too much about that right now. We can add punctuation, so if it detects punctuation through your speech, like periods, exclamation points, so on and so forth, you can set it so I don't really use it, because in all honesty, it's not great at detecting them. Then we have capitalization. You can choose whether or not it capitalizes for you. You can have all caps or all lowercase. Really depends on how you want to customize this. You have force line breaks, which is something we're not going to touch too much here. Mostly because, again, like it says, it's not recommended for Twitch, and it's really not something that you want to use for the application we're going to use it for. You have caption timeout. What that means is how many seconds is going to be present with the content on screen before it blanks itself out. We're going to go over transcripts. What this is for is if you want to transcribe all of the stuff you've closed captioned to an external file, for stuff like YouTube closed captions. If that's something that works out for you, you have a lot of the same options. However, basically your outputs will be right here, and then your sources right here. You'll basically add your text output, and this is important, so we'll go into this a little bit later when we actually create the things we actually do this. But basically, when for all the good that this is doing, it needs to point to a text space on your screen. We'll have to create it in order to actually have this do something, but let's say you create a text source on your screen. This will generate an item to populate here, and we'll select it, and then we can customize how long each line is and how many lines are allowed, and then punctuation, capitalization, so on and so forth. We're going to delete that for now. Text filtering, basically what this is much like how if you're an iPhone user or an iOS user you're familiar with what this is, you can basically preempt. Let's say you swear a lot and you want to replace a swear word like shit, for example, and you want to replace that with stuff or something in the closed captions. You can do so using something like this. You add your text replacement, replace this with this. It's pretty simple stuff. We're not going to mess with that too much here, mostly because for my application, I don't bother. So that's basically it. Very straightforward. It's really cool. So I'm going to show you how to apply it. So we're going to go back to my wonderful talking head here, and I'm going to show you how exactly we do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add first, again, we're going to take stuff that from my streams. So, I mean, I'm not going to waste your time with showing a bunch of stuff from like Photoshop and what have you, because that's how I made the images for this. But we're going to take, where is it? Out of here somewhere. Graphics. Alright, so caption frame. Pulled that up here. So basically it looks like a dialog box from Final Fantasy VII, I think it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back here. I'm going to show you. So we're going to add. I mean, I'm going to preempt, you know how to add a image to OBS Studio, but if you don't, you select that. If you already have a copy of the image listed, it'll be down here. If you don't, create new. It'll ask you where the image is located, so on and so forth. What you're going to want to do after that, to put something on top of it, is you're going to generate a text field. We're not really going to name it, but you can name it whatever you like, honestly. And then there's a lot of customization options here, so we're gonna just keep that down there, I guess. What we're gonna do is, keeping with the Final Fantasy VII theme, we're gonna go and what is it? Reactor 7? Yes, that's the name of the font we need. And then we're not gonna read from file. We're not gonna put anything into it. It just needs to be blank. And it needs to have a font to it. So we're going to cancel on that because we're not doing it in this field. We're going to go ahead and just delete that. So we're going to go into back over here. We're going to go ahead and do the thing. Text. And then we're going to, let's call it captions. Let's choose our font. Reactor 7, please. Yes. Nothing special. Doesn't need to be anything special. We're gonna drag. Whoops. Let's. Can you? Okay. So this doesn't need to really do anything special. I don't know why it made it so bloody huge, but. Okay, anyway, so it's there. I promise you, it's there. It's just empty. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the captions thing back up. We're going to go captioning enabled. And then we're going to caption source. We're going to pull from the mic. And then we're going to go over to open captions like we shows, like we saw earlier. And now that we have the captions field in our sources, we're going to, that under text source, you should have captions or whatever you named your text field in the list, in which you'll select it and then select save. Now it's actively pulling from it, except for some reason it's like gigantic. So let's fix that first. Yeah, the font is humongous for some reason. I'm gonna go ahead and try and see if we can. Oh my goodness, what happened here, OBS? Okay, Well, we're having some difficulties here, so we're going to start right from scratch. As you might have guessed, there's a little bit of trial and error sometimes, but it is pulling right now. So I just need to create the text field again. Make sure the font isn't gargantuan. I guess I kind of missed that. I don't know why I didn't think of that to look, because typically you don't have to. Why is it so bloody big? It's a really, really good question. Now what I do, well, I'll show you guys how to do that later, but we're going to go ahead and do the thing with the captions again. So go over to that little gear, open captions, select the output from the list. There we go. So we have it here. Now it's really dinky, but using the magic of OBS, oh yeah, that's still really faded, so we might have to up the size of the font a little bit, maybe up to 72. There we go. But as you can see, I'm shrinking it just a smidget. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Let's calm down there. And just as easy as that, we've got captions. Now, I mean, it's a little bit crude right at this moment, but I mean, this is just for practicality's sake, and that's it. Like, that's all you got to do. Now, it's actively pulling right now, just for an example, but generally speaking, if you leave it out to its defaults, it'll only pull while you're streaming. So let's see if we can just set it for 3. We'll see, set it so it only generates 3 lines, and maybe make it 50 as a line length, so that way it's not consuming the entire thing. But you can see how you can completely customize it, and it only requires that plugin, a font for you to pull from, and I mean, Windows has plenty for you to choose from, but there are plenty of websites out there. Once the installation and the initial setup of the sources are done, your role in this is finished. So, and as you can tell, the closed captioning is not perfect. No closed captioning or text or speech to text dictation is not. It's just, we're not in a place where it's perfect 100% all the time. But as you can tell, it's still pretty good, all things considered. Especially considering you can put it on top of whatever you want. You can have it be whatever font you want. It could be whatever style. Like, something I like to do with this is place an outline on it so it stands out from what it's sitting on top of. So it gives it a little bit of pop. And that's great. That's it, Bob's your uncle as far as that's concerned. If you had an uncle named Bob. I did, but he was never called Bob. I'm actually pretty sure it'd be a 100% way to piss him off. But anyways, so yeah, that's Captions on OBS. It's super simple, doesn't require a browser source, which I should let you know a reason why you should probably try and step away from as much browser sources as possible. It's because it's almost like opening not another browser tab per se, but like another browser window for every browser source that you have open in either Streamlabs, by which, if you have Streamlabs OBS, what are you doing? But also OBS Studio, it's basically like opening a new browser window for every browser source that you have open, regardless of whether it's up, whether it's doing a lot. So if it's actually pulling from something you have open in another browser, you're basically, for every one of them, it's like having 2 browser windows open, which adds to the resources needed from your computer, which is a no bueno. if you don't have like a super high tier system. This works great, and I'm a big fan of it. So do some experimentation. Show me what you guys got. I really hope everybody grabs onto this and has a lot of fun. I love it. As you can tell, it's like right in my, like, touches all my nostalgia nerves and what have you. Gives me all them dopamine hits. So let's delete that. This next one is going to be a lot of fun too, especially for those of you like myself who are a big fan of retro games. Specifically RPGs, because mostly RPGs are dialogue heavy, which is why this is trying to emulate stuff like that. So we're going to go back to our other monitor here, and we're going to go over to something that's called the Chat Game Fontificator. And what the Chat Game Fontificator is, let's pull up an example window, is a way for you to make your chat widget look as though it was a dialogue box from a common game. In this example, it's pulling from Chrono Trigger, and I'll show you exactly how to well, it's not even an install. The funny thing about this is that it requires very little from a common Windows setup. And to my knowledge, this runs on anything that can run the JavaScript runtime environment, otherwise known as the JRE, which you can get right here. Again, this is on GitHub. And again, I'll have the links to everything on the video description. But basically, the first thing you'll want to need, the first thing that you'll need is the JRE environment, which you can get right here. If you don't have it, get it, install it. If you have any issues, let me know in the comments. But honestly, it's fairly straightforward. Once you're done that, restart the computer, come back here, and then we move on to the next step, which is downloading it from here. Is that okay? That's the preview. We're gonna go right here, and it'll download down here, and it's a zip archive, or not even a zip archive. I'm pretty sure it's just the file itself that you need, which I'll pull up here. Is this it? Yep. Which is a Java file, or a JAR file, called chatgamefontificator.jar. Pretty simple, straightforward, right? Let's open it up. And provided that your JRE is working as it should, you should get two windows, one of which that looks like this, one of which that looks like this. This is your chat preview window. Once you're properly set up with everything in here, and I'll tell you how to do that, your chat will show in here. Now, how do you get this to OBS? Well, one foot in front of the other. Let's get things customized here. What you're going to want to do, now you can do this one of two ways, but how I have this set up is set up as read-only, so you don't need credentials. If you want to set this up to enter your chat as a custom account or as a quote-unquote bot account, you can set one up, but you have to have that set up prior to you logging in for the first time with the Fontificator. There's a lot of stuff that you have to go through here. The simplest way to use this is to set it for read-only. What you're going to want to do is set the channel as your well, in this case, your Twitch channel, your Twitch channel username will be in there with a hashtag before it. If you don't put it in there, it'll automatically put it in. You leave this stuff alone, the host name, the port number, everything will be automatically put in for you. So long as you have the proper channel name here, in my case, it'll be Azure Hailfire Media. You hit connect. Bunch of text shows up here. And now I am in my chat. So, I mean, nothing's going on in my chat because I'm not streaming right now. And nobody's in there doing anything, but if I wanted to, I could test it. So let's see, message I can put in here, testing for the chat game Fontificator, and it should show up. There we go, in the window here. Now, I could hear you saying, well, you said this was slightly customizable, right? And I was not leading you wrong in that regard. Now, there's a lot of customization options here, but the skill ceiling is a little bit high. You basically need to know exactly what you're looking for in regards to things. So you have your chat window size here, your chroma key border. If you don't know anything about chroma key, I would say leave that alone. What chroma key is for is when you put this into OBS, there's a bit of a transparent layer. You'll notice all this green that's kicking around the outside here. We'll take care of that late when we're actually going into putting this into OBS, but you don't want to mess with this one too much. This one is just how to put this, like you just kind of leave it alone in most cases. Chat start from bottom, that's normally not ticked. If you want a more traditional look to your chat, I have it clicked for that. Reverse chat order, I'm not sure what that does. Mouse wheel scrolls chat, so if you actually want to scroll in here, you can do so if you have that checked off. Font border, this is all completely customizable, so the font, the type of border that's in the window, extended in Unicode characters, so if you're using non-alphanumeric characters, you can customize this stuff. Again, don't recommend messing around in here too much until you're comfortable and confident in using this program. Same deal with messages here. This is more show usernames, show timestamps, show joins. So when a user joins the channel, I still haven't gotten this to work even though it's checked off. Show timestamps. So as you saw when I sent the message, the 24-hour timestamp that shows up with the message, and then the username, which you also saw when I tested it earlier. Colors, fairly standard. You're going to want to make sure the chroma key is this just sickly shade of green. That's a fairly standard chroma key. And then emoji, also stuff that's really kind of unreliable as it stands right now, at least for me. I have it all checked off, and what it's supposed to do is cache all of the emojis and emotes that you have used in the chat. As they're being used, they should be stored in this program on an external file, and then that way the next time they're used, they actually show in the chat here. However, it doesn't always work. It's rarely worked for me. The big customization thing here for me that I use, that I go when I switch from game to game, is this guy here. So your presets. So this takes you to all kinds of different games that exist in terms of JRPGs. There's one for Castlevania here. There's one for several different Mario games, Metroid, Pokemon, Quintet. So you got your two ActRaiser games, TMNT, so the NES games. Ys, I think that's how it's pronounced, Ys. And then your Zelda games and a bunch of other ones here. So let's go with Star Ocean here. Now, as you notice, the frame has changed. There's a black border kicking around here, but then also your chroma key border. This is one where you would want to change things a little bit. Mostly because most people want everything to be transparent aside from the border, but we will mess with that at a later time. That's more of a, again, once you're comfortable with it, you can mess around with it. But what you're going to do, if you want to bring this in to your OBS, is we will bring OBS up and then we do a window capture. And we'll just call it whatever. It doesn't need to be named anything in particular. You can just anything that identifies it as that particular thing. So I'm going to name it chat. And then it already defaulted to the Fontificator configuration, but we're going to go to Fontificator chat. That should be in your, whatchamacallit, your list under window. And then So we go in, bam, it shows up there. So we're gonna go ahead and remove that, or we can leave it up. Honestly, it's not really a big deal here. We're gonna cover VB up with that, and then test it out again. So we're gonna go ahead and just copy and paste. Bam, easy peasy, right? Easy freaking peasy. But then you still have that annoying green border around, right? Well, if I'm not 100% on this, but give me a second and I'm pretty sure I can remember how to do this. So we right click chat here. It's not really coming up in the window, so we're gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna tell you, once you hit right click on chat, you go to filters, and then filters window will come up. I'm gonna hit this little plus sign here. You're gonna go to chroma key. You're gonna just leave the name as chroma key, and biggity bam, it defaults to the color that it is, because that, like I said, that green, that sickly shade of green is basically the, how to put this, the basic bitch of chroma key colors. So we do the same thing again, and biggity bam, look at that, without that annoying little green border. Now again, you'll notice there's still that bit of a border kicking around, but as you use this, you'll be able to layer them up, so you'll be able to use a little bit, but you can also alt click, so you can kind of do your stuff, but that's a separate video. Alt click is like holding alt and then clicking one of the border edges, and you can kind of crop it down if you want, but that's a completely separate video if you want to learn how to do that. So let's just put everything together, and we'll go forward from there, and we'll see how it looks in the reel. So let's go back to my wonderful face here, and we'll put it together. So go again, we'll add image, and then I believe we'll do the captions first. So there's my wonderful caption frame, and then we hit the plus sign in sources, we bring a text file in there, we're gonna call it captions, and then hit enter, and then we're gonna select a font. We're gonna, in this case, we're gonna set it to Reactor 7, and then set the font to size 48, and then we're gonna hit OK, and then we're going to go to our dock for the captions and hit that little gear icon, and then amongst the tabs we're gonna go to general. We're gonna make sure the caption source is set to our microphone, whatever we've set the source for our microphone to be, it should be listed there. We're gonna click on it, make sure that it's set, everything's set to the way that we want as discussed earlier. Then we go to make sure that captioning enabled is checked off near the top of this near the top of that window, and then we hit open captions. Sorry, we're gonna hit add text output. Make sure that it's checked, that it checked at enabled. By text source, we're gonna drop that menu down. We're gonna hit the text source name. In my case, it's captions. Then we're gonna hit save, and it already shows. Look at that. Bam. Bam, bam, bam. There's captions. Literally 5 minutes, if that, to just set that up, like from install to putting it on your stream, if you already have the resources, of course. Me putting this caption window together was not entirely easy, but it was well worth it. And that's really dependent on your graphical acuity, or you can have somebody make it for you, whatever the case may be. It's entirely up to you how you get that done. Of course, you'll need a font that you want to use with this, like I mentioned to you before. That's neither here nor there. Those are all resources that you can compile on your own. So that way you can do this entirely how you want to. Again, completely customizable. 100% the best thing here. So moving on, under your Windows doc, or sorry, sources doc, you're gonna hit the little plus sign. You're gonna go to window capture. You're gonna create new, name it whatever you want. In this case, I'm just gonna call it chat. The default is gonna go to the Fontificator configuration. In my case, we're gonna drop down the window and select Fontificator chat. Then we got it there. We're gonna go ahead and click OK. I'm gonna put that buddy over here, and then we're gonna right click on the new source for under the sources doc, and right click on the window capture source that we just made. Again, I named it chat, but you can name it whatever you want. Right click it in the sub menu that comes up. You're gonna hit filters, then a window comes up. In that window, in the bottom left corner, you're gonna click on the plus sign. You're gonna hit chroma key. You're gonna hit OK, and it should automatically take care of any stuff for you. Now, once you have this, you don't need to remove and re-add the chat source every time you want to change it. All the settings will carry over, so if I want to switch it over to Final Fantasy IV, it does it all for me. It's fantastic. I love this thing so much. And let's just test it again, and it works. Easy peasy. Super easy. You'll notice again there isn't a black border around this one because this preset for whatever reason doesn't have the black around it, probably because of whoever made the graphics for it felt that this was easier to take care of. Don't know, but let's switch it again. Let's go to Metroid 2, and we're not gonna save configuration changes, and boom, like this one is for Metroid 2. That's actually really cool. And look at that, like that, I love all the flexibility you get with these things. So what I like to do is switch these up every now and again, and like when I change up what game I'm playing, I'll switch some of this stuff up, as specifically the chat game Fontificator. It's pretty cool. So what do you guys think? Hopefully that you guys at some point or another take some of my advice here and work with this stuff, because honestly, when WebCaptioner goes down, or let's say Stream Elements has some problems, you won't have any problems because you'll be doing this all on your own, and it'll just be you, your computer, and your stream, and you'll have all the control in regards to captions and chat anyways. So if you liked what you saw today, and you want to help me out, like, share, and subscribe as per the usual for YouTube stuff. If you want to catch me streaming with this stuff, I do JRPGs and sometimes some other stuff relating to JRPGs over on my channel on Twitch. It's Azure Hailfire Media, and that's pretty much it. I hope you really appreciated this. I know I would have if I if I had this available to me when I was looking to get this stuff done. So I hope you guys really appreciate it as well. With that in mind, I guess that's it. Have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful evening, and I will see you guys again the next time I feel that this stuff needs to be made. Take care.